Welcome to Moving Iron with Casey Seymour and Greg Peterson, the podcast for anyone and everyone involved and interested in the business of ag equipment. If you want to understand what trends and market forces are impacting the price of your iron, you've come to the right place. Buckle up, it's time to move some iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by John Deere. I've got Greg Machinery Pete Peterson on to talk about what's happening in the marketplace. Greg, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Casey. How are you?
Doing all right, man. Caught you on the road, right? Now checking out what's going on in some auctions out there.
Just got back. I was down in Dyersville, Iowa today, about 3 hours away. It was my second trip down there since Friday. Last Friday, I went, very cool event, a 100-year of Caterpillar event down in Elkader, Iowa. A fantastic contractor down there, CJ Moyna and Son, put this just incredible 3-day event on. There were people there from all over the world, and they had the vintage cat stuff out in the field scraping, and it was really fun.
That's cool.
And on that same topic today, down in Dyersville, it was a rental equipment auction. So, not people assume we all just cover farm sales, but doesn't matter to me. I love all kinds of auctions. So
yeah.
Today, my friend Jack Lyon came out with Alex Lyon and Son out of New York, and Jack is really a cool company. They're the world's largest privately owned, family-owned auction company, and they sort of specialize in heavy equipment, but they do a lot of farm sales too. And they came out to Dyersville, and it was fun to see Jack and their team do their thing. And right before we started this interview, I just posted a video of a 19 model 9570 RX scraper special with 4,099 hours on it, selling for like 207. Just posted the YouTube videos. That was, a fun day in Dyersville.
When you were looking at that, did you see anything stand out to you there on that? Did you feel like there were a lot of, because I watched a lot of those auctions like that on the heavy side, and you'll see a lot of that stuff that ends up on farm lots. Did you get a good feel for any of that? Any farmers there that were looking at some heavy stuff?
Yeah, there were a number of farmers. I had a guy came up to me right before the item went up for sale. He's like, "Hey, Machinery Pete." And I think his name was Ron. And I'm trying to remember. I think he was bidding on a Kobelco. No, it was a Kubota SVL 90 skid steer. And we were comparing numbers. And I punched up our website quick and was showing him the auction prices. And I always hope people consult that before the auction, so then they kind of know the numbers. But anyway, we're like, okay, low 30s kind of. And that's right what he went up to, and then it kind of whooshed past that. What was interesting on the sale today, Casey, and with these heavy equipment auctions I've been watching this summer, going back to the spring, there's been so much uncertainty just economically, trying to wait and let the tariff thing play out and all that stuff. So I think if you're a contractor, trying to run tight with the equipment that you need for jobs, I think what I've been seeing is a lot of demo units with like new, never used, no hours or low hours. Like today, there was, I think, 6 or 8 demo skid steers on the auction. Some Caterpillar like 262 D3s, and then some like SV 280s, 280Bs on the case side. So it's interesting to watch those sell in that condition. And I think farmers are probably, a lot of them online looking at that stuff, just situationally looking for a good buy.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything stand up there to you price wise that you were like, maybe it's a good buy, or did talk about some stuff that maybe jumped out at you and you thought, hey, this really was a little more solid than I'd seen in the past?
I think it was pretty much on par. Again, because there was a lot of those low hour demo units, sometimes we just have to see those numbers and see how the 4 or 5 or 6 of them sold. So I haven't pulled all that apart yet, but my gut reaction was I thought the sale today was right on the markets.
Right on the market. Okay, right on. Well, you talked about a few things that popped up today on some baler situations that Merit and Purple Wave had, and I was very impressed by the numbers we saw come across on those.
Yeah, I got a video today from Casey McGregor, the auction coordinator with Merit Auctions. They had a sale yesterday in Donaldson, Iowa. It was a farm estate auction. It was a 14 model John Deere 569 round baler. I think 5,218 bales on it. Went for $36,500. That's the highest auction price in 18 months on a 569. And it was funny because just yesterday or the day before, I'd posted a social media post of 569 round balers because Steffes Group had a very nice one that sold on Monday. That was in Ivanhoe, Minnesota. I think Rost Farms Retirement Auction online sale. It was in the evening. We're seeing a lot more of these 7 p.m. auctions. And that was also a 14 model. That one had more bales, like 11,211 bales or something. But that brought 30. So yeah, good used hay equipment. Again, with that's that magic 10 plus year old range we talked about, whether it's balers, tractors, anything, skid steers. If it's good and 10 years old, the price gap between the new stuff just makes it just like a neon sign and everybody wants it.
Yeah. And that falls into that range, that dollar range that people are looking for. And it does make a huge difference about what, when you're looking at those kind of things, what you start seeing happen on the backside of that, and you see, 30 grand on a 2011 baler, that's pretty impressive numbers, like, as you look at that come across there.
Yeah, balers, they've been strong all throughout 25. I remember being out in by Bismarck, North Dakota in July, watching a couple of Vermeers. One of them was one of those self-propel rigs, but they both sold well. I think the other one was a 605N special. So if they're right, and I think, as we've talked about, Casey, in this environment, if you get away from the livestock side, on the grain side, the pressure is increasing. And every auction I go out to now, I'm hearing more chatter about it. And it's just to be expected. It's just difficult as we're waiting and hoping for China, something to be worked out there to help with the beans. But, I think the reality is setting in that, when you can't buy new, what you want and need then is really good condition used stuff. And hopefully, flipping it here from the buyer side, they tend to look for that stuff that's a little bit older because, again, that price gap is so high. What a new one goes for, that a nice 10, 12-year-old round baler or skid steer or tractor. It's, another example of tractor for you. Our friends at Schmid Auction had a sale, I think it was last Thursday. So Trent Schmidt there, he's down by Effingham, Illinois, great area. And they had it was a farm retirement sale. The guy's name was Tom Mix. And he had a 2000 model 8310 Deere. 4,222 hours on it, went for 111.2, which is the fourth highest ever on an 8310.
Yeah.
And that's 4,200 plus hours.
Yeah.
But again, now that's a little more than 10 years old, but pre-def. Tom took great care of his stuff, and that's the premium you get.
Yeah. So speaking of that, this is the time of year where you start seeing a lot of for sale by owner stuff pop up, right? Guys trying to kind of get their idea of what they're doing, how things are going on. I love looking through for sale by owner stuff. I'm Facebook Marketplace. It's a good place to go find those kind of things. But kind of working your way through all that, and it's the one thing that amazes me most about it is that everyone thinks their machine's worth more than the next guy's machine, because I know what I did to it, right? The bad thing about that is they don't tell anybody what they did to it, right? And the story behind that machine. My point of view and my piece of advice I've given people in the past is that you can't take enough pictures. Machine can't be clean enough, and you need to have a good story behind why what machine did and what did it make it do, right? And I think that gets so lost in translation sometimes when you're looking at that. I've seen a lot of those posts where there's good clean tractor, that's the description. Right. They've got 3 pictures and they want $350,000 for it, right? And those are the kind of things where I'm like, I'm not saying your tractor's not worth $350,000, but what I'm saying is I need more than 3 pictures to make a decision as me as a buyer. And then, go contact your dealer and ask for the specs, right? Go ask for the different reports you can get about those machines and kind of go through. What's some of the advice you give people when you start looking at for sale by owner stuff, Greg?
You're right. I mean, that dude, he's not going to sell it for $350,000 with 3 pictures and a crappy description. It ain't happening. You can throw a fishing lure, but if you don't put any bait on a frickin' hook, you're not gonna catch a fish. So my advice, like you said, as many pictures, quality pictures, but then. And this next thing, it is uncomfortable for people in agriculture, because God bless farmers, they don't like bragging about their equipment. And I'm not saying, or you're not advocating that they brag about it, but you got to fill in the blanks. So like in our own for sale by owner section at machinerypete.com, what I like to highlight when people list stuff, and by the way, thank you for doing that, is when they fill in the description, and they do a good job with that. Like, one, how did I use it? And two, why am I selling it? Because if you don't say that, what it leaves people looking at, a lot of times as humans, we fill in and you kind of negative fill in the story unless it's laid out for you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost anything to paint a picture like that.
Right.
So again, the last killer step I would do is these cell phones that shoot video. You got to do a selfie video, look into the camera. Hey, Machinery Pete. Hey, Casey Seymour, I'm selling my whatever,
Yeah.
my Massey tractor. And then just say something about it.
Yeah.
And the way to think about it is back before auctions went online, imagine, just close your eyes and imagine you're at an auction in the old days and it's a retirement sale. And the auctioneer up in the truck gives the microphone down to the farmer who's retiring,
Yeah.
standing by the truck.
Yeah.
And that farmer, he doesn't like to brag, but he just says, well, I took this down to 21st Century and to John there, and we had it serviced and da-da-da. And when people hear him talking about it, that fills in the blanks.
Yeah.
And what fascinated me over the years is the number of times I'd be standing there filming, and the farmers are honest, would say, I got the transmission issue on this thing I could never figure out. And when they're honest like that, the price goes up, even if
it puts them at ease,
even if it has issues. Yeah, just call it out and be honest. I think that always helps what you're selling.
Yeah, I would. When I flip through pictures and I'm looking at machines and stuff like that, if I start seeing a lot of pictures through there that are like, here's a scratch on the side over here, and the glass is broke over here, and this belt may be a little iffy type of thing. You probably need to think about doing that. I'm gonna feel a lot more at ease about what it is I'm buying, and moving things forward, because you're asking somebody to go out there and just take your word for it.
Yeah, invest.
Right? You know what I mean? And they're just, I'm taking your word that this machine is actually worth $350,000 because you're showing me all the stuff that's there. And I think that makes such a big dynamic when you start looking at how things put together.
Another thing I see often, Casey, if you think about the extreme example of farmers who might run on the OCD side, and also pride of ownership, which we know is huge with farmers across the country and in Canada too, of course. But when they sell something, a lot of farmers, whether it's at auction or private, they want it to be like new. So they'll put new tires on it, or they'll do this or that. Without the story, people look at it and go, well, what are they trying to hide or whatever? But really, when you talk in those cases, the auctions I've covered, the auctioneer says, Pete, God bless John, but John won't sell something unless it's 105% of what it can be. He wants it, needs it to be perfect.
Yeah.
Now, in those cases, what's really needed is just a little interview. Now, this is interesting because before we started recording, you were telling me about a friend of yours in Scotts Bluff, a 90-some-year-old dealer salesman who's still selling. And of course, you could have guessed what I'd say. It's like, Casey, you got to do a video interview with this dude to preserve history. And you relayed that he's reticent, but that's what I mean. That's how ag people are. They're like, hey, but if we get around that and just, hey, Bob, tell me about your tractor. That's what I'm advocating for. It's just super low key. Like we've been doing TV for 20 years now, and we get these big HD cameras and people are always a little nervous. And I just tell them, forget the cameras there. Just look at me. Tell me about your tractor. And then it spills out of them. And when you get that spilling out of, the people who are watching it on a cell phone or a laptop or whatever, they're just pulled in. And if you want to sell something, that's what you should do. And if you want confirmation, my dad always taught me to pay attention to different markets. So if you're trying to buy or sell a house right now, the latest trend is you write a personal letter. Like if you're selling, you would write a letter and you would say, my wife Marlis and I raised our 3 daughters here, our backyard, the trees, blah, blah, blah. And if you flip it, if you're putting an offer in on the house, you write a letter saying, thank you very much, Casey, for the opportunity to look at your house. And boy, my wife and I could see raising our kids in your backyard. You're trying to appeal to the emotion of the
Yeah.
seller.
Yeah.
And we're humans and we're emotional beings. So to leave that out of a sales situation, like your example of the guy saying, hey, 350K runs good. It ain't selling when you do that.
Yeah.
And it will sell and sell for more money if you think about this stuff and fill in the blanks. So it's a really important discussion to have.
Yeah, you're right. It's the psychology of everything too. And one other thing I stress as well is you need to pull yourself back from pricing your machine and take the emotion out of that. Right? You've got 4,000 hours on whatever it is you've got. You go out and find the other 4,000 hour ones, and if they're at $150,000, yours isn't worth 175,000, right? So maybe it is, but you need to tell a good story about why yours is worth that much, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's it all comes back into that.
Well, and that's gets back to why I've done what I've done for almost 36 years. Is my hope is that in compiling the auction prices, and people tease me sometimes, I'll post something about that 569 round baler for 36.5, and that's what it sold for yesterday in Donaldson, Iowa by Merit Auctions. Now, are they all going to sell for 36.5? Like to your point? No. You can go to machinerepeat.com, and in my note yesterday that I posted when Steffes Group sold the one for 30K on Monday, I said, by the way, the average this year is 14.6. Last year it was 14.4. So then you can start to see, okay, well, my 569 is a little better than average, and they get up into the 30s, but average is 14. I got X number of bales. I'm probably high teens, low 20s. And that's, then you can be realistic with it.
Yeah.
And then there's when you price something to sell too. I mean, we obviously all want maximum dollars, but also how quick do you need it sold?
Right.
I've always been fascinated, again, because I pay attention to different markets. So if I'm selling a house, you get one chance to list it first. Like people go to Facebook Marketplace and like you said, they're scouring, they're looking. Your listing shows up the first time once.
Right.
So what are you going to put forward information-wise, like we've been talking about? Do a good job there. And then don't overprice it, because don't say, heaven forbid, don't say call for price. Because
don't say that.
I mean, if you want people to not pay attention to what you're selling for, go ahead and do that, because every single person I've ever talked to, I don't even bring it up. People tell me, why do sellers do that? And there's a lot of different reasons, I understand, but they'll just pass right over.
No, I certainly do.
Everybody does.
Calls for price. I'm like, I don't have.
No, and what does that imply?
Yeah, it's too high.
It's too high.
That's what it implies. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's right or wrong. We're humans, and that's just the bottom line of it. When you see that, that's what I think. And if I think that, my chance to pick up the phone and call and again, that's your first shot. Yeah. And we actually have a feature at machinerepeat.com. When you're shopping for stuff, you can filter it and you can see the most recently listed items. So I posted yesterday, I just grabbed like 10 to 20-year-old 200 horse tractors with under 5,000 hours. But then I made sure to put the most recently listed ones. And I know Randall Brothers in Holgate, Ohio had one at the top. And now they're an example of what to do when you're listing equipment, because tons of pictures Rob and the crew there list, and really high quality pictures and high quality information. And then, they go through the work more pictures. And so we want to reward that at machinerepeat.com. If you provide more pictures, we can make it so people searching can find those first. So, it's the right way to do a listing.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of little nuances there, a lot of good things that you can take little advantages of and those kind of things. But at the end of the day, there's really three things that matter. It's how many pictures do you have that actually tell a good story about the machine, what your description looks like, and are you priced fairly in the marketplace?
Boom, boom, boom.
Those three things sell more iron than anything else does. That's really what it comes down to.
Exactly.
All right, Greg, good place to stop. If folks want to get you to come speak or just show up at an auction someplace like that, easiest way, just go to the contact page over there on Machine Repeat.
Yeah, contact page, or we have a toll free number. I think it's 844-727-6374, or hit me on social, and I'll be around doing my thing.
Greg, appreciate you being on. We'll catch you again next week.
Sounds great, brother.
All right, stay tuned for more Moving Iron podcast after these messages.
Well, there they are, mocking you.
See you next year, loser.
That weedy area that's got you thinking. Man, I hate that spot. Wish I'd sprayed better. Get the last laugh with a sprayer upgrade from John Deere. Precision upgrades that can increase your sprayer's performance, like ExactApply, advanced nozzles to give you more control at more speeds. It's just one of the many precision upgrades you'll find at johndeere.com. Now, let's see who's laughing.
All right, welcome back to Moving Iron Podcast Markets. I got Rich Pasta to come back on and talk about what's happening in the world of economics. Rich, how you doing today?
Good, and thank you for having me on again.
I love having you on, Rich. You always got good stuff. Just in time for us to break down the armchair quarterback of what's going to happen with the Fed today as they talk about lowering rates. Before we jump into that, talk a little bit about what you're seeing going through that and what you've been talking about on your podcast.
Yeah, so lately we've been talking about that the way this economy has been developing, it's in what I call a kitchen business cycle. It's kind of like a 3-year pattern, okay? You basically have a good year and not so good year, and then a good year, and that tucks in something far more larger, far more important, where you have the boom for the decade. And you can see there's erosion in the economy. It's slipping, and it doesn't have to bottom to early next year. The stock market probably has already bottomed for it. It probably doesn't care or shrug it off. So in other words, I don't think it's going to be all that severe of erosion. But we're at a tricky point during that longer term trend of economic growth when we could be more vulnerable. And now with all the Trump stuff, things we've never done before in this country. So there's a lot of unknowns. I can see why people are nervous. What if this escalates to the downside, and pretty soon we're in a recession? Well, I was worried of a recession earlier in the year, not just worried now. I think the thing can self-heal a bit, but it must have, and the Fed Reserve's been printing money since at least April, I think even before then. That's helping, but some people want the lower interest rates as well to help out. And I would say today the model is saying it's probably a good time to lower it because we don't have to lower it more in the future. Wall Street is hoping today to learn. They're going to lower it several times in coming months, just keep working at it. And I'm fine with that too, because the Fed can always reevaluate and say, listen, no, we're not going down there. We're not lowering it this next time, okay? And so I would say, why not make people feel it more at ease? And there is a lot of political pressure on the Federal Reserve where, Trump is trying to take them over, and even Republicans don't want that. So they're hoping Powell kind of works in here one way or the other, helps out. So if you bring in the political slant, but you also bring in the economic slant, I will be surprised if the Fed doesn't lower. I think I probably would if I was in the hot seat as well. I'd probably do it. I just would be rather reluctant further down to just how fast I do it, because as we'll discuss later, there's inflationary impacts. We could be in a tricky situation where people are just saying this economy sucks and everything's also getting more expensive, and yet the stock market keeps going up. Why is this? It's very tricky on the Fed because they know if they lower interest rates, they could wind up ramping up the inflation. If they don't lower interest rates, they know we can have higher inflation, but the economy slips and people are going to be more mad and depressed.
Right.
Yep. So that's my modeling. And when we look at the Fed factor today, it's saying it probably will lower it and probably should. But it's not clear cut. It's not saying we absolutely have to do it. Eventually we will, but not necessarily today. A problem I have with this is I'm concerned there's so many people, especially in the financial markets, betting on this lower interest rates. What if they don't lower today? It's probably going to be a crazy day, and maybe for a few days, few weeks even. And then they'll get over it probably. But yeah, most people are betting they're going to lower, and I must say I've joined them in saying they probably should and probably will. Now, the way my modeling works, I can throw out certain things and do reverse modeling. And what my model is saying, if we don't even look at that Fed or consider today at all, it looks as though stock market's going higher anyways and may go higher today. So that's giving me a clue that that's kind of a way of reverse forecasting. You know what? The Fed probably is going to lower today. And it probably is going to help the stock market in coming weeks here for a little while at least. I mean, eventually, it does bother me, like in the commodities, we used to say things like buy the rumors, sell the news. So today's the news day, right?
Right.
So it does worry me they could sell the stock market even if they lower rates. But I don't think it'll last. I think somebody else would buy it. I'm feeling rather optimistic the stock market into December, Jan, Feb, and then I think we got a problem early next year. And then, but as far as these Fed interest rates, I think they're probably going to lower. I had been saying higher interest rates in the next year, even into 2027. That's still on the table. All it's doing is being delayed. I wouldn't be surprised interest rates bottom early next year, and then they're up next year. And that's probably going to be driven more by inflation. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, my bet is they're going to lower today, and it's
Yeah.
probably going to be a good thing.
Are you thinking a quarter or a half, or what are you thinking?
I'm thinking just a quarter. I'm sure Powell,
Yeah.
that's all he would want to do. There's people on the Fed, they want a half right away, and they want to keep moving. There is a Taylor rule that's at 3%, meaning that's where the Fed should be. And people have a lot of faith in Taylor. Used to be at the Fed Reserve, and now think he's one of those billionaire speculators, investors. I forget. That's the Taylor rule is down there quite a ways, and that's what is making people nervous on Wall Street. With the economy slowing, they're saying, well, if you don't lower those interest rates fast enough, because it might take 6 months before that actually trickles in, helps the economy. Now, the stock market, it won't wait 6 months. If they lower interest rates, they'll get all optimistic and giddy anyways, unless they just want to sell that news and make a little short-term down move, right? And then later they'll probably just return and buy, because what they'll be thinking is longer term, the lower interest rates will pay off, especially since we're still printing money.
Okay. So right now the Fed, I'm looking at this correctly, the Fed lending rate right now is 4.33. You're guessing somewhere around 4.1, 4.8, something like that when it comes through, right around there.
Yeah.
And so do you think they're going to try to push it down to that 3.5 range by this time next year?
I don't think they'll be that aggressive. I don't see the need for it. I respect the Taylor rule, and yet it just feels like that thing is not quite right. So
Right. Okay.
I don't think we have to put it down there that much to really help the economy. There's a lot of money still sloshing around out there. I mean, the consumer doesn't necessarily have it, because you can see the credit cards are going. They're using more and more credit to balance this out. We hear all these wonderful retail sales, but my gosh, most of it's just because they're paying for more. They're not buying more. They're not buying more apples and more corn, and they're not buying more cars than what they already were. They're just paying more for it. So the sales on a dollar basis look like, oh, this is a wonderful economy. It's doing great.
Yeah.
So we have issues. And again, I think that's another reason why the Fed's going to say, well, maybe we shouldn't worry so much about inflation for a little while yet. And let's lower it a quarter point. And if they lower a half, that would be interesting. And they lower a half, I could see some people saying, oh, the Fed thinks things are going to get really worse. This stuff can come back to bite us. We think we got it all figured out. And then the market will do the opposite of what it really should do, just because people get fearful in the opposite direction. So, but actually, really a half a point. I don't particularly care if it's a quarter or a half, but I wonder about a half. It might reverse the other way. Instead of making people optimistic, it might saying, well, boy, what's coming down the road?
Yeah.
Because Fed's normally late to these things. So people would like to think if they do it now, they're not late necessarily, not too late. But boy, if they ever rushed it, they might be thinking, oh, the Fed could be worried it's late.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So let's talk a little bit on the grain side real quick. So the grains, if you looked at where they were 2 weeks ago, we saw a 10-cent run up on a Friday, and the way grains have been trading back and forth, you're seeing 4, 5, 6 cents swings in a day. On the cattle side, you're seeing tons of volatility, $10, $12 a day swings. I mean, it's just crazy what you're seeing there. You've seen a lot of volatility in there. The USDA report came out last week, and you saw what they say. We're hanging our hat on this 189 bushel crop, and the agronomics coming out of the field are saying, not so fast there, in the words of the great Lee Corso. But as you're watching that stuff come through, this last report to trade basically thumbed their nose at the USDA and said, no, we know you're wrong, and you're going to admit that you're wrong, so we're going to bet on this thing forward. And you saw a big 10-cent jump. And again, you've been seeing this 4, 5, 6 cent swing intraday trading and those kind of things. The tariff situation, I think the tariff situation is something we have to contend with, and I think that's a big deal. But I also have done this long enough that once China has drained Brazil of all their beans, they come to the U.S. and start buying beans.
Yep.
And tariff or not, right?
Yep.
And we saw that all the way through Trump's last administration, when they were supposed to buy all the stuff, and they bought about half of it. They waited till they bought everything from Brazil before they came to the United States. And I think, we saw that during Biden's administration and so on and so forth. We work our way through that. So the tariff situation is a huge problem that we need to overcome. But looking at the tariff situation, looking at the grains right now, everything on the table saying, hey, man, we're going to be lucky to get back to where we were last year when you start looking at carryout, which puts us in a similar situation for the supply and demand that we're in right now. I guess so as you're looking at this, Rich, what are your thoughts and how do you think those two things are going to play with each other?
Fortunately, I've been bullish back in August, and I said it probably could bounce into September. It kind of reminded me of a 2013 event when we really didn't have any weather scares. We had no weather problems, and prices went down during the summer, and the crop was fine. But in August, we got a big spike up. In fact, I made $1.80 personally out of soybeans per bushel in like 2 weeks, and it was a wonderful time. But overall, the year sucked. I mean, it just eroded. We never really got anything sustainable. This year wasn't an exact copy of that, but it was something interesting. We got that August, September bounce. My model's saying I can allow another 1 or 2 weeks of upside, but really it wants to be bearish into October, bullish November, December. But the model's also saying we probably have already seen a long-term bottom in soybeans, wheat. Well, maybe not so wheat. I wish wheat would rally a little more off the low, give me some room to work with. But the soybeans and the corn look good. I got a feeling again that if it sets back in October, like I think, it might be more sideways. It might be just harvest, figuring,
Stuff.
wrapping down harvest and putting it in the bin, putting it away. But the interesting thing is the model wants to be bullish into summer of next year. So if we take away, if we dial in these high crops and high ending stock, the model is saying you can still put prices higher in the next year anyways. You just don't put them up as much as some years. So I got to go with that we're in a bullish stance here, that you can market on the way up and this and that and stair step. And then the point is the model can allow a modest cyclical crop problem to put a little more fire under it. And then the Gleisberg cycle everybody's talking about, especially Sean Hackett, I believe. If that thing strikes, that's far more serious than what my model is saying. So I tell people, well, my answer is, where are we going next summer? Well, we could be up a little bit. We could go up a huge amount, and we could be in somewhere in between. And that's the best I can tell them for price levels. I do have some special targets that I'm showing in for my subscribers. But that's how I'm approaching the price. It's just a big range. But I'm fairly confident, at least a direction. I really think these grains can work higher in the next summer. Just keep in mind, we can have headwinds from all this tariff stuff for a long time to come. However, then again, that inflation might spike. We can be setting up for a 1970s scenario when we had higher inflation early 70s, lower mid 70s, higher again late 70s. So the whole average for the decade was higher than back in the early 1800s even. And this time around, it could be as severe as it was in 2022. But I don't know about you, but I know more farmers who made money out of that inflation 22 than they didn't. Most of them said they love inflation. This could be, I hope it's not going to be late inflation, because what that means is your inputs go up just as fast as the price of your corn, so you don't make anything. This time around, I think they could make an added edge out of that if that tariff if this inflation really come in to play. And I am looking for higher inflation next year. I'm looking for higher commodity indexes. I think there's a chance to make 10 to 20% out of these commodity indexes as an investment. And I think some of these investors or traders are waking up. Part of the reason, I agree with you, part of the marketplace is betting on USDA is too high on some of this production, okay? But some of it is the marketplace is saying, even with these good supplies, the price is actually low enough relative to what it costs to make it, and how good is the economy, and can people afford? They can afford to pay these prices and somewhat higher. So the market is basically saying, what's the point of putting it even lower? You want to bankrupt more farmers? Why?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I think you've got a macro and a microeconomic thing coming in there that's creating a floor price where, one, they can't afford to sell it any cheaper, and two, the money's there, they can buy it. Now, on top of that is a debate of where is USDA? Are they accurate or not? And that can put a little more icing on the cake of working a little higher here. And I think the market senses that, right? So that makes some sense of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and the part about your when you start looking at, you've talked about this several times on here, that you're looking for a crop problem in 27, 28, 26, 27, 20. You've talked about that a lot on here. And where supply is right now, if we do go through again, we have a similar supply issue that we see right now. And then we roll into a 26 growing year with a major crop problem. There's really not enough supply out there to really forego any kind of a crop problem that we see right now. So
To me, it
crop
feels like if
problem.
anybody's really nervous of where the supply is going, in other words, too much supply, it just feels like it's one of those times that could turn on a dime.
Yeah.
It just disappears. Suddenly, USDA is going to be pulling on some of those columns in their balance sheet, saying, "Whoops, the corn isn't there."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the scenario that we see there. Any thoughts on the cattle market? I mean, I've had for the past, I don't know, 18 months, I've talked about the cattle market, and every time I do the podcast, the people I have on, like, oh, well, this is probably we're going to see this thing slip, and about the time you see it slip,
It goes
start
up
to slip,
again.
it takes off and goes back up on higher than it was. So I guess as you're looking at this, Rich, what are some of the fundamentals you're paying attention to?
Yeah, I don't follow cattle as much as I used to, so I don't know how useful I am at it actually, because it's not that big of an input into the grains. It's subtle, it's long term. The grains can actually impact more of the internal balance of the cattleman, and that's where you will see feeder cattle and corn. There's something there between them, but live cattle and corn, there's not as much. I learned this working for some of these global companies years ago. And I shocked them. They just said, "Gee, it's not the way we were taught." And I said, "Well, I can't help it. That's what that's what we're looking at." So I don't use cattle to forecast corn, in other words, but you can have a little bit of forecasting corn impacting cattle. The cattle has a little bit different fundamental thing going on micro-wise. We're down to just a few companies running the whole show of hacking the cattle, right? And in the past, they've been working ever to make sure they have safety, making good money, wouldn't pass it on. President Biden started to look into that, and that kind of scared him a little bit. So I think they're doing a better job passing it on. But then you also have the supply issue, okay, with the amount of the size of the herd, and that all these things piling on top has made this bull market better than you would normally expect. There's about a 10-year cycle that ranchers have known about since I think the 90s or something like that. And they still talk about it. And from what I understand, it's just about the time to stop going up. Unfortunately, my modeling, and again, I'm not as great detailed as I used to on that, but it's allowing 1 to even 2 years yet to extend higher. But boy, it's if it was on a dashboard needle, it's getting in the red. Okay. It's saying this is too high price. Who's buying this stuff?
Yeah, exactly
I
right.
mean, my gosh. It's as good as gold these days. Gold bar on your grill. So it's coming. There's a bear market coming, but it is interesting on this supply. Man, I got a local dairy guy here, milked 600 cows. He says, something, I made $600,000 last year and just taking all my bull calves and putting them out there for beef. This is great and wonderful. And he says, it doesn't look like this will stop forever. And I said, careful. You start saying forever. And he laughed. He says, I know. But it has been a good run for some people, but it's too high priced. It really something has to snap. Nature will eventually get back and help the supply side, and eventually the consumer, I would think, would back off here. Maybe if it ever stayed up 2 years, that might be long enough to get close enough that it just comes down for just normal business a little bit. Then all of a sudden we get the recession I'm looking for in 2027, 2030. So then what would really occur, even if you didn't build the supply, you just pulled the rug out of your market because people can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly.
So for those who are really optimistic of this going up for quite some time, I don't know. It seems too high price for me. But I'm not sure I'm the one to claim it right now.
Yep. All good things must come to an end, right, Rich?
Exactly. All trends end.
That's right.
I have so many in Wall Street telling me, the trend is your friend. And of course, I study trends. I'm a trend follower, but I also time them. And some people get upset. They don't want people timing. And I say, well, it's your friend until it's your enemy. So, I mean, it turns. It's got to turn. You got to do the math whether you like it or not. I don't care.
That's exactly.
You got to get out there and run around. It's like me personally. I almost forgot to say this. Back in late July, I did a tour of 4 states where I was specifically looking at like antique shops, gift stores, restaurants. I wanted to know more of the tourist industry. But I was also after what's the overall economy doing? And I must say, man, I had like goosebumps when that tour was over. I would walk into people's stores and they had this look on their face like they were so thankful I walked through the door, you know?
Mhm.
And I could also see they would look off at the edge of off to the side. And I know what they were thinking. They were thinking, I hope you, Rich Posson, is the sign of more people coming, because the whole tourist thing during those 4 states had been delayed. And I had some of them telling me June was a horrible month. And I even had park rangers at the park saying, yeah, it was terrible.
Mhm.
And then these stores and restaurants. I went to a restaurant that normally would see 200 people for lunch, and they're washing the tables off, and there was like 5 people there. Now, part of the reason is they were charging $50 for a lobster roll when I can make one for $15. But I mean,
Right.
you
Oh yeah,
know, but I
that's the
can't
thing.
blame.
Yeah.
You know what I learned is this behavioral economics is a little bit different than the textbook. And I was, they're charging them $50 for that lobster roll, but I looked at their staff, I looked at what they have there, and I said, they know darn well they're hurting themselves by keeping those prices that high. But you know what? There's not going to be enough people coming anyways. So why cut your price and sell the same amount?
Right.
They're caught. They really are caught.
Yeah.
I'm kind of negative on the small restaurant business, and I am learning some of those larger ones are now a little bit more concerned too. And then this is another reason probably back off on that interest rate today. But at any rate, just that little tour, I was surprised. Now we're seeing the data come out. I see comments by the hour, people saying, boy, June wasn't a good month. Now, for some people, it wasn't exactly June. We've had issues all along here all this year. And it is that kitchen business cycle. You just have to realize in your business, you want to think about every other year, your business can slow down a little bit and it might even get bad. If that decade business cycle is still bullish, though, you're probably going to be snapping right out of it. Don't be too concerned and overreact to it, but just realize your business can't go on for 7 to 10 years just winning year after year after year. It's just
Yeah.
that hasn't been the history of this country. I am worried these big corporations, they can rig us at the store that that's what they want. They want to be up for 10 years, never have a losing quarter, never have a losing year, and then a recession, and then they'll say, but that isn't their fault. That's just everybody. That's the whole country coming, and then they'll just reset. That's good for them, but it's not good for you and I, the consumer at the store, because there should be these fluctuations going along, and
Mhm.
they're rigging these prices where they just keep pounding, pounding, pounding. I've seen the computer programs; they're capitalistic design computer programs. If you don't cut back immediately of buying at their store, that computer's saying you're not charging enough. Ramp it up again. Keep going.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's where our capitalism, I don't know. I'm still a capitalist, but I got to tell you, some days I feel like I ought to be something else. So we'll see where we go with it.
We're in a weird spot right now. You know what I mean? Like
It
if you go,
is.
when
It
you
is.
take a family to five to McDonald's and you spend $65 to get McDonald's hamburgers, I mean, like
Yeah. Takes the
that's a
fun
pretty,
out of life.
you know what I mean? Yeah. And then, you go to just a typical restaurant and you're going to spend, if a family of five, my family, we got five, I got 3 kids, and you go eat dinner someplace and it's $150, $175. I'm like,
Yeah.
what did we order? And then next thing you're looking at it, and it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just the everything is so expensive anymore. Like anything you do is so expensive. And the only thing I can say is I don't understand why everything else in the world is so expensive, but then you go look at the price of oil and where it's at, and the price of gasoline, and I'm still paying the same price of gas I was paying 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't make sense how that correlates, but everything else on the planet is just
Yeah, it is
through
how
the
that the
roof.
oil guys, I think, are doing a better job of figuring out these economies around the world. It's not just the U.S. They know they have very large supplies, but they also know there's no sense raising the price higher and hurting themselves even more. They are trying to find some of the free economic things, but they're doing their darndest not to drop any. I've got this green box on my oil chart that goes over. I drew it a few years ago, and I just keep extending year after year. Every time it comes down to it, that boy, they put the brakes on. They don't sell it any cheaper than that. So
Mhm.
that's getting undervalued. I do think we'll probably see oil work a little higher into next summer driving season. I'm not too
Mhm.
concerned about it right now, but the point is, if everything goes up somewhat, then the inflation's going up. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just all adds up.
yeah, for sure. All right, Rich, talk a little bit about your podcast, where they can find it, and what's it called, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, go to criticalpointpod.com. Brand new website I put out earlier this year. There's 3 different types of subscriptions there available. One of them is just a combination of the other two. and they're cheap. They run for like $15 to $20 to $30 a month. And the reason is I don't put out a newsletter. There is a free newsletter I'm starting to put out every month on the website. There are a few free videos there too, but the others are locked up. But unlike a lot of people, I've gone to a 60-day free trial. So if you don't like it, cancel during that time, and you can cancel anytime after. And most of my people stay with me a lot longer than the average newsletter or podcast type writer. I mean, they like my stuff. I work really hard at it. I've automated at it. This business cycle modeling, I've done it for 40 years now, and I made good money out of the stock market, real estate. It's helped me make business decisions. It's done very well for the economy. So go to criticalpointpod.com, check out that website, check out some of the stuff, sign up, because like I say, you don't like it in a month's time, you cancel, it didn't cost you anything.
There's also, I listened to it on the iTunes, Apple iTunes. You have those quick one hitters that come out in the morning, and they're 7-8 minutes long, kind of give you a brief on what's happened. So well worth your time to check it out. Rich has got a lot of great information out there, and I will tell you that it's contrarian to what you're going to hear out there on the other side too. And that's the other thing about it that I like, is that you get another point of view other than the talking heads you see all over TV that kind of say the same thing over and over again. So pay attention to what Rich has got going on there. So Rich, appreciate you being the podcast, man. We'll catch you again next time.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
Stay tuned for more Moving Iron podcast after these.
Looking for more accuracy, more productivity from your current planter? Let's get exact with precision upgrades from John Deere. Start with Exact Emerge and get accurate singulation and spacing at 10 miles per hour. Or choose Exact Shot to promote early root growth and cut fertilizer costs. And with Furrow Vision, save time by verifying seed depth right from your cab. Visit johndeere.com/planner upgrades and see why nothing runs like a deer.
All right, welcome back to Moving Iron Podcast. Got Aaron Findle back on to talk about what's happening in the marketplace. Aaron, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. Sorry, camera, force of habit. I had to. No, I'm terrific, dear sir, and yourself.
I can't complain any.
It's September.
It is.
So nobody wake up Green Day just yet, but we're here in the middle of September, and we've had still in the 90s, and we've had 26 degrees. So
yeah,
welcome to September.
That is the one thing about September in the Panhandle. April's the worst month to live out here, in my opinion. It's just like the worst possible month on the planet. There's we have like five seasons here. We got spring, fall, winter
in April.
whole different thing. But this time of the year is kind of like that. We did have a colder snap come through a couple weeks ago. Looking at the weather, looks like there's supposed to be some more coming here at the end of the month. Here we got about another week or so, and I think it's supposed to kind of get cooled off. But typically here we get a first frost sometime. It could be as early as September 1st, and it could be as late as January 31st. So I mean, it just depends on the year, but it's
oh, for sure.
We're pacing nicely with our frost situation out here. So we'll see what happens.
Because I think it was 21 or 22. It never froze till like late November.
Yeah.
Of course, it was also like 80
Yeah.
and the driest I've ever seen it out here that entire time. So there's that.
Yeah. So my son has a lawn mowing business, and I think it was 21 or 22, that time frame. Might have been, there's right on there. Anyway, I always tell him, like, just keep mowing until they tell you not to, right? And he finally, I was like, okay, it's almost Thanksgiving. Like the week before Thanksgiving, I was like, you can tell your people if you want to stop.
Right.
It's up to you. Like, oh no, they're going to keep paying me, Dad. I'm going to keep going. I'm like, all right, well,
I retired this year.
Yes. So he got like it was almost like a Florida mowing season there for a minute.
Yeah.
As things went through. But they had so since he's gone to college, I know I take over his mowing duties. So he's got 19 lawns he mows, and I mow them on Saturday, and mostly Saturday and the occasional Sunday. But they're it's winding down. You can tell the grass is.
Oh yeah.
This time of the year, grass gets gets greener and a little thicker as it starts to kind of go and whatever, but it doesn't grow.
But it slows
you know,
down.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because like there's places I've edged, around fences and stuff like that, and I go walk back around. I'm like, wow, look at that! It's just like I did it yesterday, and
Right.
it was a week ago. So it's slowing down for sure. So we're knocking on the door of being done with all the fun stuff that is normal growing patterns in late spring and whatnot. So it's or late summer, sorry, as we move through there. So all right, man.
That has been your turf grass minute on the
they have so this time of the year, again, we've been talking about the last couple of times, kind of this time of the year people start selling stuff. And this is also the time of year where you start seeing an option that's popped up year over year that's getting more popular is the I'm going to sell my own thing, right? And
Right.
work my way through that. And there's levels to that. I'm not saying you can't go out and sell your own 1-year-old stuff because obviously that stuff happens. But the flip side of that is the majority of the stuff that gets sold that's for sale by owner type stuff is 10 years old and older. Feels like that's kind of the sweet spot for that.
For sure.
Or stuff that's higher houred. But you start looking at like 10 to 12-year-old combines and especially 10 to 12-year-old tractors. I mean, that's because everybody, that's like we talked about 2 or 3 podcasts ago. When the market starts to solidify and things start moving around, it's that quote unquote budget piece that people
Right.
start moving, and that's typically that 7 to 12-year-old something is usually falls into that, or like on a tractor, it's like a 3,000 hour tractor to a 7,000 hour tractor, something like that. Those things you start finding people that are selling a piece and they end up with just what they sold for, and it might have been completely paid for or mostly paid for, and the cash that they get out of that is enough to put the down payment on the next
Right.
something whatever, and they don't have to worry about what the banker says, right? And because that banker situation right now in a lot of farms is getting to be a bigger and bigger problem. I mean, I tell you what, man, I've run into more and more conversations with guys and read more and more articles about like they're just like they got one string left they're hanging from, and someone's up there with just like a little sharp knife that every once in a while nicks it, and they get a little jolt down on some stuff, So it's a serious thing. So as we're watching this stuff happen, that's where this for sale by owner stuff starts coming into play, and that's why I think the auction market's been so busy here of late and those kind of things. But tips and tricks. When I used to watch guys sell stuff, I mean, the one thing I'd always make sure to have. The one thing I ran into the most were on the for sale by owner stuff was making sure the machine was priced to the market, right? That was one of the things that I saw a lot where I'm just picking something. Let's say it's $150,000 is the price of the tractor, and you'd see some that were priced under that, and you'd see some that were priced above that, and the ones that were typically priced above that were not the machines that should be priced above that, right? They were typically more hours, rougher machines, those kind of things. But it was kind of one of those deals like you have to pull yourself back from the what I want to get out of it and what the market's worth. And those are the two things. It's a struggle because I do it when I sell my cars and stuff, my own cars and those kind of things. I'm like, well, mine's worth this much, and I have to play that game even as a guy that's doing that does that kind of stuff all the time. And I have to pull the emotion back out of it and step back and say, okay, all right, here's how mine's equipped. Here's how mine is. Here's the miles or hours or whatever it is that I'm selling. Here's the hours on it. What are similar machines looking like, and how does mine fit into that scale? And when I just go out and sell a car of mine or something like that, I'll spend a whole weekend just pouring through every website page I can find, making sure that I'm setting it up, use Kelly Blue Book, those kind of things, and go from there, and making sure that I've got mine priced at the most I can sell it for, and then set it up to where I can be successful with that. On the tractor side of that, go get the specs from your dealer and list those specs in your option list.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't know what it is, you don't have the paperwork that shows what the specs were, or you can't find it or whatever it is, take that serial number, go to your dealership, say, hey, give me the specs from a machine, and put it in there, because again, that's you might leave something out that is so important that people go, "Well, it doesn't have what I want." You know,
Hydraulic pump. You can't
Yes.
see. You cannot see by looking at the tractor what pump it has.
hmm
So you need to know. Plus, there is not in the world we're in where all that info is so instantly acceptable. I can't tell you the last time I sent a guy any info on a machine that didn't include the build codes.
right.
That's part of life now. It wasn't 20 years ago. It was you might hear that once a year. And
Yep.
you'd be like, "Ooh, boy, this guy's educated. He knows there's build codes and stuff."
Right.
And now it's like, "Hey, I seen you have this." Literally, guys will be, "Hey, I seen this combine online. Can you send me the build codes?" Yeah. All right. And that's become step one, off and running.
Yep.
So that is hugely, hugely important.
Yep.
Back to your price point, what you want doesn't mean a darn thing at all. It's where is the market? What will that piece bear in the market you're selling it in today?
The only way what you want correlates into dollars and cents is if that's what it's worth, and that's
Right.
that's
Right.
you have to separate yourself back from that. I mean,
now you can say, okay, my tractor's worth, it could be down at 140, it could be 160, and that's legit, a $20,000 swing.
But
on
if
a
you want
15-foot tractor,
if you want 160, you better be telling the story why it's worth 160.
That's where I was getting to.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you want the upper end, you got to do the upper end stuff. Have all your service history.
Yep.
You don't have to have it listed in the ad because some of that's, a little more private information to guys. But have it right there. Have it in a PDF where you can email it. Because guess what? If you ask your dealer, he will email it to you in a PDF. That's how we look it up.
Yep.
The other thing, dear God, please, there will be 30 pictures of a machine online and a guy calls and asks for more pictures. That same guy sends me 8 of his trade-in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 30 is not enough for you and you send me 8. Not quite how it works. You cannot take too many pictures.
No, you can't.
All the listing sites hold at least 50 pictures.
Right.
Do it. I don't care if you zoom in on the weave of the fabric of the seat. Whatever it is, do it. You got to tell a story. And it's not just the verbal story. It's not a written story. You tell the story through your pictures.
Yep.
How clean it is, how good it looks. You tell the story through the work history of the machine. What do the tires look like? How's it set up? All of that is part of the story. And if you're selling it yourself, that story that you can deliver is what separates you from me, from the red guy that's selling the green one, from whatever. You are the guy who has sat in the seat or owned it, whatever, put the hours on it, know everything about it. For me to sell it, you have to relay that to me. I have to then relay it to the next guy. When you're selling it, it's coming straight from the horse's mouth.
Yep. I think one of the most disheartening things I see is when you pull up the highest price one out there, and it's a for sale by owner or something like that.
Right.
And there's 6 pictures, and they have, and they're like they're not even like good angles, like this. Like they're just like, how fast can I take these pictures and get it online? And I'm like, I really think
this one's blurry. Did you actually stop, or did you take it while walking?
The idea of again telling that story of where you're at, what you're doing, how those things are coming together. I can go out and take a picture of a tractor, go walk around a tractor, and easily get 60 pictures. And I'm talking a tractor, it's not a combine.
No.
I'm not showing thrashing components. I'm not showing any of that stuff.
Right.
I'm showing just a tractor. I'm showing you
of a sound guard, let alone a newer one.
Showing like inside weights, right, on tires, on the rear tires, right? Or don't use your finger to show the depth of tire
No.
with, because I know everyone's fingers exactly the same length and everyone's the same, but don't do that, right? Don't use a pen. Don't use
Or any, yeah, I was going to say the ink pen.
My favorite one is I saw a guy one time actually use his credit card, and he took the picture and it had the credit card numbers on it. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And so I mean, get a tape measure out and measure. If you got a tire gauge, tire tread gauge, get that out, look at it. But use something that you can
That has
actually do measurements. You know what I mean? That's universally accepted. That okay, right? This is a 3.5 inches worth of tread. Okay, that makes sense. All right, go from there. So as you're working your way through that, if it's a track machine, bogey wheels, inside and out. If you're looking at drive wheels,
idlers,
all that stuff, guide blocks, and actually show. I like to take a video of the guide blocks when they're running and have someone drive so you can make sure just how many times you looked at a track machine and it starts rolling and you're like, oh wait, we're missing a guide block. Oh wait, we're missing another guide block. Well, if you miss more than 2 or 3 in a row, then that track is worthless, right?
Or the side of the guide block is shaved funny. Why is it doing that? And then it starts rolling and you're like, oh, because it has to flip in because it's so god awful out of alignment.
Yeah.
That here we are. Not that you wouldn't have a guess to that, but see it move.
Yep.
In the world we're in, to your point, videos. Dude, 100%. I was not a video guy at all till 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And they tell a story.
Yep.
Because here's the thing. Maybe there are people out there. Well, we know there's people out there far smarter than me, especially with electronics.
That's a given. Yeah.
But you can doctor stuff up in a picture. It's a lot harder to do that in a video. That's my take on videos. It's a lot. I come from a cloth that's always skeptical, right?
Yeah.
I personally am not, but that's how I grew up. And I could see a guy being like, oh, he only took good pictures, and a video that you can physically see isn't cut and pasted and taped together and all this. That's legit. That's just walking around, looking at it. Here it is.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's the thing about the pictures too, is that you can, like on a combine, if you look at like the rotor belt and those kind of things, like you're going through and look at all those things, get a good picture of that, and show it's not cracked, right? Show it's not, you don't see any, I don't know how many times we've looked at combines and we go down and look at them, and I get up there and start looking at stuff and I'm like, well, you can see the steel in this belt is starting to show, right? I mean, probably need a new belt now, and that's $2,000 belt or whatever that costs to put that thing on there, and you start working your way through that. Another thing too, I always like to show people is, hey, the oil's been changed, and you take a picture of that filter with the hours on it, and that tells that story. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
So I think if you're trying to get the most money out of your machine, long story short, you're trying to get the most money out of your machine is you show everything, even all the stuff that's wrong with it, right?
Yes. That
you'll be amazed because I'm going to sit there and say, okay, all right, well, I see this now and it makes sense. I can start kind of making those decisions. If I have 8 pictures to go off of, I'm just automatically assuming that it's the worst. And
or there's some hidden story,
right? And you're gonna bang it with a steel hammer and not a golden hammer, right? So it's going to be a little different. So when it comes back out, but I think when I'm looking at this, I want pictures that are going to be representative of the dollars that I'm asking for it, right? And even if your machine's the cheapest one on the marketplace, there's still no reason why you shouldn't have a bunch of pictures, because again, it goes back to velocity of a transaction, right? The more the pictures that are there, the more story that it tells, the more comfortable I am to do that. When I call you about that machine, that person's probably 85 to 90% sure that's what they want. They just have a few clarifying questions on, hey, can you have some work order history I could look at? Or, hey, when was the last time, this is a common thing on these machines, when was the last time X got done to it, right? Like those are the things that they're going to ask you about.
Here, for the average guy, we all know there's those farms out there where you can lick the underside of a tractor drawbar and it's perfectly clean, okay? Mm-hmm. The average farm is not that way. You cannot get that piece of machinery too clean for your pictures. And here's what I mean by that. Let's just say you're sitting around on a lazy Sunday. A guy pulls in the yard and he says, I'm going to pay you $20,000 to pressure wash every molecule of dirt off that tractor, combine, planter, whatever it is, make it spotless. There's not a guy alive who wouldn't do that.
Right.
I would be hooking up hoses before the guy got done. Okay. $20,000. That's what you're leaving on the table if you don't do it.
Yeah. You run into that a lot.
It could be 10. Most likely, if you're selling it yourself, it's something worthy of that level of attention. Even you take an old sound guard, a $40,000 sound guard, an $8,000, what have you, and you're still at a 10 to 15, depending on, is it clean and did you take good pictures? That is that big of a difference.
Yep.
Personal story for everyone. I had an old banged out 4430 that was a trade-in. And it was a enormous project from the start, but it absolutely ran like a top. So I bought it for a feeding tractor. Ran it for, I think, 2 or 3 years. And it always ran great, but it just had, like, lights didn't work and seat was trashed, all this little piddly stuff. So I sold it and had a little bit of a time getting rid of it because I didn't wash it, right? It's an old banged out 4430. They'll bring this all day.
Right.
And you'd have every guy that calls. And granted, a guy buying a used 4430 on Craigslist is typically your C customer or lower, right?
Right.
And every one of those guys, why is it so damn dirty? Okay. So I then take a vacation day, power wash the tractor off, relist the pictures. It sold in 15 minutes. I almost also didn't sell it because by actually washing the tractor, you know what was discovered? A big giant reman tag on the side of the engine that nobody knew was there. It had 1,000 hours on it.
Yeah. Makes all the difference in the world.
I left $5,000 on the table because of that.
Yep.
Do your due diligence. And this is from a semi-pro. That's like straight from the mouth of Jackie Moon.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there you go. Somebody that does it all day, every day, it's like, whoa. Yep. That's how easy it can happen. Do the due diligence.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the more time you spend working on something and the more time you spend telling that story about it, just like you talked about, you're going to get that thing. I've looked at a lot of pictures online for sell by owner stuff, and it looks like someone threw a bucket of muddy water inside the cab, and then there's the season's worth of bottles.
There's always this guy likes Busch Light and Mountain Dew.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, you guys just simply just take the trash out of it,
right?
Before, don't even worry about the scrubbing the floor or the side of the cab or any of that stuff. Just take the trash out. I mean, and then those are the ones I look at too, and you'll read in the comments like, I don't understand when someone's up. This is a good tractor, no one wants to buy it. And I'm like, and the question I would ask people too is, if you were buying this machine and you saw it like that, would you be interested in it?
Right.
And every time, well, no, I'd want it to be. Yeah, but I mean, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to then hire a high school kid, go to the FFA auction and hire and bid the kid for the whatever they call that thing where they
slave, or they used to call it a slave auction.
Slave auction, yeah.
I don't believe it's called that anymore. Indentured servant auction.
There you go. And they bring a guy like that and have him just clean your fleet.
Oh yeah.
Just clean your fleet, and you, like you said, if it costs you $1,000 to get people to do that, you're going to get 19 back on this cleanest thing. Because again, if it's a good, clean looking machine and it's nice and clean and sitting there nice and pretty, and you've got good information about it, good pictures about it that really tell the whole story of the machine, the way it looks and everything, and what it's been doing and all that kind of stuff, that's the first question I ask somebody when I'm looking at a 4-wheel drive. Like, what's it been doing, right?
Right.
Is this one of those scraper tractors they put the drawbar hitch back on? Or is this actually been a 4-wheel drive tractor that's been an ag application? Right?
Has it been out in a field, or has it been hooked to a 10,000 gallon slurry tank its whole life?
Right. Like, what's it been doing? Like, has it been ran at 95% capacity its tire life, or has it been ran at 85%?
And that's another thing. There you go. That's a great point, Casey. All the way on, I know on the John Deere side, all the way back to 2011, you can get a report from your dealer about what that tractor has been utilized at.
Yeah.
You can get, this thing's only been, it's got 8,000 hours, but for 90% of its life, it's been at 65% power.
Yeah.
Versus that guy's got 4,000 hours, but he actually needed a 410, not a 370.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
big.
That's a good thing too. So you talking like,
which is funny. Why aren't we as dealers all doing that?
well, you sit down and work with your customer and you show them that kind of thing, and you'll be surprised. Like, hey, good example of this. You can analyze the hours on there, right? And the hours. So it's got 650 hours on it, or whatever the number is, right? And you come to find out 450 of those were at idle, right? So
right,
you're like,
exactly.
You're like, so really it's only had 250 hours worth of work, right? Or the sprayers are the worst for this, right? It shows at work, at idle, and at transport, right? And you'll see this thing has got 1,000 hours on it, and 650 of them are at transport.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of things that you're sitting there talking, okay, well, the spray system's only has about 150 hours worth of use on it.
Or, and I mean, to that point, you have guys with like R series sprayers almost filling it with a garden hose. So,
right. Yeah.
I mean, the sprayer's a lot more capable than the support equipment.
Right.
On some operations. So that one's going to be extra wonky because they're going to spend no time spraying, and all the rest of the time they got to run home and fill because they don't have a tender truck, or it takes really long to fill because we don't have the right setup.
Yeah. So again, that tells a good story too of how the machine's set up, what it's been doing, how many hours it's been, and the case side's coming around. I think you can do the same thing on the case side as of like 2017 or something like that. But on the John Deere side,
AFS Connect,
AFS Connect,
right?
yeah, that's what it's called. That's it. So both those you can do that, but you can sit there and look at it from how many components have been used and what they've been used for, and how much time has, whatever, on a combine, like Combine Advisor been used, and all this. You can print all those reports out and give them to people. So it might seem
quick, as you said, Casey, just real quick, for the dealer side of things, a lot, if you print, we've done it on occasion, and it's changed what the guy buys next.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's beneficial to the dealer because it's going to create a mix instead of, well, he bought a 370 because everybody else did, but he only needs a 310.
Right. Or 295.
Yeah.
So
235.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, that goes back and talk a little bit about what that was. Also too, there's information out there you can get to show the lineage of that machine, right? Where did it start out at? Right. You find a used machine. Where did it come from? Did it come from Mississippi and make its way to Minnesota, right? Which happens all the time, right? And a lot of that stuff coming out of the Mississippi stuff it's spec'd for a certain reason, and it gets way up there, and it's put into a feedlot operation or something like that.
Good looking Southern rigs, 1 year old to the north.
Right.
Good looking 5-year-old rigs from the north to the south.
Right. Yeah. So you see this swap around, so you understand the lineage of where that was at, and if you're not buying it from the guy selling it, right? If you're not buying it from the guy selling it, I have as long as it's all right to the customer, I don't have any problem having that customer tell the buyer about that machine, right?
Exactly.
Because they're going to sell it better than I am, right? They're going to be, this thing was that, or, oh man, I love that machine. It was great. Best thing. Got rid of it because we just needed to upgrade, and it was our trade cycle was up or whatever it was, And I've also had to tell them like, we place things here and there and da 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 da, and and the customer comes back and goes, well, I feel better about this machine now, even if they told them a story that was
Right.
not the most rosy story on the planet, right?
They know. It's because they know.
Yeah, they know, and they feel
They can
feel-
attack with confidence. That's all. It's buyer confidence. That's all you're creating with your story. Any of that is buyer confidence to move forward.
Yep. All right. So final thought here on my opinion, if you're going to do the for sale by owner thing, there's great places to do that. Machine Your Pete's got a great for sale by owner section. You can do that place. You got other places you can go do that. Facebook is like the universe kind of revolves around the for sale by owner thing when it comes to tractors and balers, and you run down the list, right? They're all on there.
And if you put it on Marketplace, don't put up 3 pictures and put tractor for sale, 308, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, fill it up as many pictures you have in the description that says, I have more pictures.
Right. Make Meta call you and be like, calm down.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is if the listing is still listed on Facebook Marketplace, don't ask if it's still available. Okay? It's still there, so it's available.
And I bet it's for sale.
Yeah.
Not for sale.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of pet peeve. I sell stuff on Facebook all the time, all the time. And it's if I had, even if you put it in there, like if it's still online, it's still available, but that's the question. That's what it defaults to. It's the default question. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Casey, is this machine still available? I'm like,
right. At least it makes it all personal and everything.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. So anyway, check that out. Anyway, can't have enough pictures. You can't have enough information out there to tell the story about your machine. And if you want top dollar for your machine, you got to have top dollar information. And I think that's the thing that you're getting out there. Aaron, any final thoughts on that before we shut it down?
That's really it. I mean, a little bit of due diligence goes a long, long way. I can tell you from the dealer side, all cards on the table, we have seen more than once where, why is this thing not selling? Why is this thing not selling? And you actually pull up the pictures, look at the pictures, study your own damn listings, and you go, whoa, we got to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Go take fresh pictures, make sure it's clean, all that, and it sells in like a week.
Right.
Like, it's that important. It happens in the dealer world all the time, way more than it should for everybody.
Yeah.
And that is just doing the due diligence all the way through.
Yep.
And it is especially another thing with the way I'm a long ways from an accountant, but I believe the way the current tax laws and stuff work, even a trade-in is treated just like you sold it yourself nowadays. Correct? I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't it show that way?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, you're going to pay that a taxable amount one way or another.
Yeah, that's viewed as
you're taking the choice to maximize your value. You're going to pay tax either way. You might as well pay a little more tax on a hell of a lot more return for yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's looked at it like income, but if you make 150 grand on what you sell and you go out and buy $200,000 worth of stuff, guess what? You got a $50,000
right
difference there that is going to go against a cost of business. So,
but that 50 sure beat 75.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And just a little due diligence fixed all that.
For sure.
One little final note. Just one last thing. I know we're getting long here. Ranchers. We're getting into the season where it's loader tractor trade season pretty much for the next 6 months. Real quick, before the guy from the dealership comes out, take the twine out, clean the cab just real quick.
Yeah.
I ain't going to send anybody pictures of my feeding tractor either. But just real quick, you'd be shocked the price difference just cleaning out that cab will do.
Yep. That's another great point. Just the cleanliness of the cab is
and
a long ways.
On top of that, that's probably the market that's going to see a lot of attention this winter from the dealers' minds too, because everybody's got plenty and it's a buyer's market
until they feeder cattle are in that high volatility mark right now. So we'll see what happens. Keeps happening.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, that's the truth. All right, Aaron. People want to reach out to you, see more of your High Plains wholesales, videos and stuff like that. What's the best place to do that?
Well, you can catch High Plains Wholesale on Facebook and TikTok. I also share those videos under my two socials of Facebook under Aaron Fintel and Twitter or X under Aaron Fintel. You can call me or text me, 308-760-1193, or just yell really loud.
That or you just texting. Makes a lot more sense.
Probably work better.
All right, Aaron. Appreciate you being the podcast, man. I'll catch you again next week.
Peace.
All right. Special thanks to Greg Machinery, Pete Peterson, Rich Poston, and Aaron Findle for being on this week's podcast. If you want to see more of this podcast, go check it out on AgWeb, or you can check it out on the video version over at the YouTube channel, the Farm Journal YouTube channel. You can see it there, and you can see all the good stuff that goes along with it. Looking forward to seeing everybody this coming week in Austin for the Moving Iron Summit. Be good to get everything back together at record attendance. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. All right. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour. It's going to be some iron, folks. Out.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. And remember, Moving Iron is available on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and anywhere podcasts are found. So until next time, let's move some iron.